I'm Graeme Corbett, I'm a florist, and today we're in my workshop and studio here in Kent, and I'm going to be showing you how to make Christmas decorations with seasonal ingredients. I'm going to make a completely sustainable wreath today, so one that at the end of the season I can throw straight on the compost heaps. I've made these bases out of wisteria vine and they're just twisted onto themselves. Other options would be the traditional kind of wire wreaths. You can pick these up easily online or at your local florist. So you just want to take your string around, loop it on and just tie it in a knot. And now the goal for me is to keep your string attached the whole time. So we're going to use this one piece of string and just keep wrapping. This is moss that I had from last year that I've just kept in a bag over the year. And for me, what the moss does is it adds a little bit of moisture into your wreath. So it keeps your foliage looking nice and perky. And you want to pull pretty tight just to make sure it's on there. But again, you know, if you pull too tight, you're going to break your string. And it's quite hard when you're building a wreath to be looking down on it. So sometimes it's worth just holding it up and taking a look at the shape you're creating and making sure that you're happy with where it's going. Our next step is to start to decorate our wreath with our lovely greenery. Other things I've got are just mixed kind of pine and fir, lots of different varieties. This has got a more kind of bluey tone, and this is a kind of darker green, and it's got another kind of texture. So you're looking for a mixture of things. Great way to find ingredients like this is to go to your local Christmas tree farm. To start, you want to think about having something. Maybe at the back you want something a little flatter. So this guy is really thin and quite flat. So I'm going to edit that down so I've got a usable kind of stem. And then you just want to start kind of layering up. And you're almost making a little bunch in your hands. And what you can do at this stage as well is start to add in things like little twigs. So for me, one of my favorite ingredients at Christmas time is larch. Okay, so we're going to attach our first bunch onto a ring. So you just want to lay it flat. And then using a string, you just want to wrap it around the bottom of those stems and make sure that they're nicely gripped onto your ring. Give it a really good pull and there you are, it's super secure. I tend to think if you're making your bunches pretty full and lush, you can just lay it straight on top of the one before with the stems coming straight across. And look at what your stem is telling you it wants to do. So this one's got a nice little curl off to one side. So I'm going to let it kind of tell me where to put it. So it's going to kind of come across that way. I've got a little bit of my eucalyptus and I'm just going to add that in as well. And at this stage, don't worry about which bit is your top and your bottom. Once you've finished your design, we'll hold it up and give it a spin and it'll naturally have a place to land where it kind of looks the best. Equally with our eucalyptus, you could almost use this as a berry. I've seen some people strip away all the leaves and just use the berry as a more kind of structural, textural element. This is where we've got to at the moment, and you can see we've still got a small gap, so we probably need one or maybe two more bunches to finish off. To attach your last bunch, you just want to lift up the first bunch and then place the stems underneath, and then you want to come around with your twine and just attach. I decided this is my top because I've got this nice bit of larch coming away here and I've got another bit kind of coming down here, so it gives a nice drape. I've got a little tiny gap here though from my eye, so I'm just going to find a stem that I want to use and I can just work it straight into my moss. And when you're adding things in, you just want quite a good bit of stem that's nice and clean, and then cut it on an angle so it's nice and sharp, and then you can just add it in wherever you want. And you just kind of have to feel around until you find it just kind of hooks in. And I think that might have finished it off quite nicely. And now we're going to make a piece for the mantle. If you've got a mantle at home, you should definitely decorate it for Christmas, even if you've got a tree as well. If we just use our chicken wire on its own, you have to work quite hard to stop it from kind of rolling around and moving. Whereas if we team it up with our stick and we put some moss inside, then we're making something that is really super secure. So when it comes to finding the perfect stick, you're looking for something that has a little bit of movement. So you don't want something dead straight. So, you know, if I'm doing a hanging piece, this is great because it gives me a natural S. And on my mantle, it's going to sit nicely. I'm going to use 2 pieces, one on each end, and I'm going to leave a gap in the middle. And that gap gives me the choice of leaving that exposed, or I can cover that up as well if I want to. And then I'm going to start adding my moss. From there, you want to start attaching the chicken wire to itself. So just find those ragged ends and start to kind of twist them together. And so our chicken wire is giving us loads of places to grip our flowers into, so we can find lots of nice spaces for them to hold. If you don't want to knock any nails in, which is understandable, you could use those little removable hooks that could go on your wall, and then you could string from there just to make sure it's super secure. When you're looking for the stems, again, hold them up, see the shape that they're making, and let that kind of dictate where they want to go. And you want a good clean bit of stem at the bottom, so you don't want to be trying to battle with getting all this foliage into your chicken wire. Another nice thing to do to test your stems is if you hold them right at the bottom, they'll show you how strong they are. So that one, if I put it in, if I want to use the whole length of it, it's going to be really, really happy to stand up straight. These dried hydrangeas, if we use them on their own, they slightly get lost. But if we group them all together, they make much more impact. And once you add something in, take a step back. Does it work there? Does it add anything? Or is it just getting lost? For me, I think this is going to be too competitive. I think it's going to take over, and maybe this is just a beautiful thing that hangs somewhere on its own. So I've also got some smaller rose hips in little bunches, so I'm going to separate out, and I'm going to spread those through this side, I think. So don't jump the gun too much on stuff. Have a think about where the best place is to use it and where the best value for money is as well. You can tape your stems onto another bit of stick or a bit of twig, a bit of an old stem, and you can extend things like that as well. I've gone super traditional here, red and green, and I've chosen the honesty in between my rose hips and my hydrangeas because they're just a little softer in color, and they've got this lovely kind of iridescent finish to them, and they look like little kind of jewels. For me, that's done. I feel like it's big enough, it's got lots of coverage, it's got lots of visual interest, but I might add stuff as I find it throughout the season. You can keep kind of playing around with it as much as you want. Now I'm going to show you what I use to decorate my table, and for me it's all about keeping things seasonal and local. I do love twigs and sticks, but I would like them to have something else going on. So things like these are great because they've got the little catkins, and what I am looking for is kind of nature. I'm not looking for kind of perfection, and I think that's the beauty that I find in using locally grown stuff. I tend not to use fresh cut flowers at Christmas time because there's not loads of stuff around, and I try to be as seasonal as possible. But things that you can get hold of that I really like are things like hellebores. You can buy these from your nursery as kind of potted plants, and what I like to do is, you know, you can take a little stem and trim that off, and then that can be something that is used on your table. A little pin frog or a kenzan, which is a Japanese flower arranging tool. So think about what your stem is telling you it wants to do, and this one is wanting to come off to one side, so I'm going to pop it on my little pin frog and it's going to come straight up. Now this pin frog mechanic, I'm not bothered about hiding that completely. I actually love the look of them and the design of them, and I'm not going to overwhelm it. I'm going to put a few stems in and just think about how it's going to look 360. I'm also working on a box because what I try to do when I arrange is try to think of how people are going to experience the flowers. So if people are going to be sitting at a table, they're going to be looking kind of this way. I want to give everything a bit of space and a bit of its own little place to play. So I don't want everything competing because we're using our stems really sparingly here. So you want to see as much of each one as possible. A little pop of blue is going to be really nice from these lovely little thistles. If you're finding that the stem is a little thin and you're struggling to get it in, you can always add another little piece of an offcut and just cut that short and use that as a kind of little wedge, a little stabilizer to put your flower in behind. just need something kind of airy and quite light coming up. Like a little offcut of juniper would be really sweet. It gives you a slightly different texture. This is a great way to add color to your table really quickly. The thought sometimes of making a bowl arrangement or a big centerpiece can feel quite daunting, whereas this, you can run around the garden, pick whatever you've got available. Don't feel that you have to be too labored. Make something that you love. I think that's the key with flower arranging. Add your water and they're ready to go on the table, and they're just like a really sweet little gesture. With our little bud vases, start off by just filling them with water. And the best way to keep your flowers fresh is to refresh your water as often as possible. So every day it would be good, or every other day if you can. And I've got this gorgeous burgundy one here, and I'm just gonna pop that in. I'm gonna make it a little bit lower. I'm gonna add in a little bit of my hawthorn, I believe. So super spiky. So I'm just gonna take those off the bottom. I'm gonna pop that in. And what I like about these bud vases is you can add height without it getting in anyone's way. So, you know, that will be in someone's vision, but it's not going to block them talking to the person in front. And if you're taking off any of these little side shoots, keep all of those because they'll be perfect for your other bud vases. You want everything to have its own little moment. We don't need to overwhelm these with loads and loads of stuff. So really be considerate when you're adding flowers. I'll continue making these, so I'll make multiples of these and then I'll bring them over to the house and start to set the table for Christmas. And what I like to do is just think about layering everything. So from the plates, I'll layer those up with linens on top, and maybe, as I said, a little sprig of something inside the napkin to kind of just elevate it a little bit. And I want the kind of flowers to be the main attraction. So the candles, I've gone for something a little more muted. I love decorating for Christmas because you can be super playful. So be kind of inquisitive and have a look around to see the ingredients that might be overlooked at other times of the year. They really come into their own at Christmas time.